the ranking member, Mr. DeFazio, for a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I very much share the sentiments you've expressed. I was interested to learn that the first earmarked highway project in America runs through your district. So that's hopefully we can.
It wasn't my father.
We can. Is that the one they named after your dad? Okay. And I hope we can bring back congressionally designated spending where we set priorities for some small amount of our annual investment. We know our districts and our states better than Washington, D.C. bureaucrats of either party. I also agree with your sentiment about challenging the status quo. I'm going to talk about that now. The status quo has been we are frozen in amber. We are refusing to invest in our infrastructure. Yeah, the FAST Act was good. But part of it's paid for with funny money that'll never show up because we didn't have the guts here to increase user fees. It's time to confront these issues. The American people get it. A number of all red states have raised their gas tax. Nobody has been recalled or lost their election. The people get it. They're tired of sitting in congestion. So I'm going to talk about real things. Okay, let's index the gas tax. Radical proposal. We're going to index it to construction cost inflation, fleet fuel economy. Gas will go up maybe 1.2 cents a gallon next year. Anybody think they're going to lose their election over that? But if we do that, over the next 30 years, we can issue 30-year bonds, would tranche the bond issuance of $500 billion, which would mean $23 billion additional per year expenditure, and we would make the trust fund whole through the next 3 authorizations, and we would bring the nation's infrastructure to a state of good repair in 14 years. And I think that's what the President called for last week in Philadelphia. He said, fix it first. We do need to fix it first. We need to fix the 140,000 bridges that are falling down. We need to fix the 60% of the pavement on the national highway system that doesn't just need another coat of asphalt. It needs to be totally restructured. And we need to deal with the $90 billion backlog in our transit systems just to bring them up to a state of good repair, let alone offer new options. My plan would both allow us to bring it up to a state of good repair in a reasonable period of time and to make new investments because it would make the trust fund whole. That's all we'd have to do, just index the gas tax, dedicate it, and issue 30-year bonds. Now, second, let's talk about, again, a little bit of political will. We are collecting a tax every day from every American consumer who buys any imported good. They are paying a tax. And that tax is supposed to go to maintaining the nation's harbors. Well, it isn't. Half the money, on an annual basis, goes into harbor maintenance work. That's why we have a $22 billion backlog to be able to accommodate the new ships, in addition to another $10 billion or so of failing jetties and other things. We're only spending half of the tax the American people pay every day, every year. The rest of it is being diverted into la-la land. It's pretend deficit reduction. It's theoretically sitting in a $9 billion account in the Treasury. If we waive the stupid House budget rules and we spend that $9 billion, which we took from the American people on the purpose for which it was intended, and spend the full tax every year for the next 10 years, we could invest $32 billion in our harbors. That means they would be ready to receive the big ships, would take care of that $22 billion shortfall, and we could repair the jetties and make other improvements. That money is already available. We don't need a new tax. We just need to push the Budget Committee objections and some of the appropriators out of the way and say, no, we're going to make it into a real trust fund like we have for surface, and we're going to actually spend the tax for the purpose for which it's collected. Now, all that takes is a little bit of a challenge to the status quo. You don't even have to raise a tax. And then third, our airports are in serious trouble. $32.5 billion backlog to accommodate growing passenger demand. You've all been there. You've gone through what are essentially Greyhound bus stations instead of state-of-the-art terminals. Now, we haven't allowed them to increase the passenger facility charge. I've talked to all the airports. The largest airports have said to me, look, let us raise the passenger facility charge, a user fee only on people who go through that airport, and we will forego the AIP program. You can give that money to the small and moderate-sized airports so they can do needed projects. and we will pay for our own projects with bonding by dedicating an increase in the PFC. Many of these airports are bonded out. Now, the airline industry says, oh, if you increase the PFC by $2, nobody will ever fly again. They'll all get in their cars. Oh, you can charge me $50 to put my bag in the overhead, and I'll keep flying and smiling. But if I had to pay $2 so I don't have a Greyhound bus experience when I go to fly on an airplane and stand in these, unbelievable lines because we have inadequate capacity, I won't ever fly again. I mean, that's total BS. We all know that. They have some economist somewhere locked in a closet who claims he can prove it. What they're afraid of is if airports expand, we might have more competition. If we have more competition, that might mean that prices of tickets go down. That's the real reason that they object. So that takes a little political will. So here's 3 steps we could take to put nearly $600 billion to work, some of it tomorrow. Remember, there's a provision in the FAST Act that I got in there that says any additional funds allocated to transportation spend out immediately through the formulas we've already adopted. We don't have to go through a multi-year process. We don't have to go through debates or anything else. I would hope that we would add in congressionally designated spending for some portion of these new projects. But other than that, no other changes are necessary. The Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund, waive the House budget rules, spend the money we're taking from the American people, and stand up to the airlines and say, look, come on. We want people to have a good experience both in the air and on the ground. Let's rebuild America's airports to meet the additional demand with a small addition on the passenger facility charge. Now, passenger facility charge is in the jurisdiction of this committee. Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund is a shared jurisdiction, obviously. And then, of course, the indexation of the gas tax would have to be approved by our colleagues on Ways and Means. But I think if we joined together like we did back the last time when I was here, and we got an increase in the gas tax over the objections of many in Congress by having a bipartisan coalition to increase the gas tax in 1993, the last time it was increased, we could do it again. I hope that we can join and make common cause in these areas because we do need to rebuild our country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. DeFazio.